Well, first of all, Governor Childs, Lawton Childs, and my dad were friends. Um, they were a few years apart in high school. They both went to Lakeland High School.
Oh,
I think my dad was 4, 5, 6 years older than Governor Childs. But Lakeland was a really small town. We're still a small town, but they were even a smaller, very small town back then. So everybody knew each other. But anyway, so my dad and Lawton were friends, and my dad was a big supporter of first Senator Childs and then Governor Childs.
hmm
And my dad talked about him a lot, in the home, and whatnot. And so let's see. So the name, of course, the child's name was, something that was very familiar to us kids, and whatnot. So when we knew about the governor and whatnot, and his wife Rhea, and then a good friend of mine, a good childhood friend of mine, Greg Ruthven, is a nephew. Governor Charles was his uncle, and so we have another connection there as well. So the Ruthvens, which is an old Lakeland family, were good friends of mine personally, because I went to school with Greg and whatnot. And then okay, so just to give that's just some context. So we knew the Childs family and had a personal connection with them. Then in terms of how we found the map, my wife and I lived in a historic district, the Beacon Hill Historic District. This would have been like in the 90s. I think we moved there in 92 or 93 and lived there through like 2000. But anyway, there was an estate sale at a neighbor's house one weekend, and my wife noticed it. I mean, and then again, this was like 20 years ago, maybe 30 years ago. It would have been in the mid to late 90s. And one of the larger homes in town was the owners had moved, and they had a bunch of stuff to sell, and so they hired an estate agent. And the estate agent apparently had some other stuff that from another estate, and so he had a big estate sale at this house, a larger house. And my wife just walked down there. It was like a block away. My wife just walked down there one day and noticed that there was a map there. A painting of the state of Florida, painting of a map of the state of Florida, circa 1800s or something like that. I think it's 1840. But then she realized it was painted by Mrs. Childs, Rhea, who was an artist. She painted and whatnot, and was an artist by trade, so to speak. And so my wife got really excited and came back down to the house and told me about it and asked me. But it's quite a large painting, about the size of a door. And she asked me if we should get it, and I said sure. So she went back up there to the house, to where the estate sale was going on, and I think she paid either $25 or $50 for it. They were just trying to get rid of stuff. So she brought it home, and then we realized who had painted it and whatnot. And I think by this time Governor Childs had already passed away. But of course, Rhea was still alive. And of course, I didn't know Rhea. I think I may have met Governor Childs when he was a senator, but I just quickly met him. We weren't friends or anything. But of course, I'm not sure I had even met Rhea. but you know, as I said before, we knew who they were, and you know, there was a family connection and whatnot. But we just had to, you know, we just decided, well, this is really cool. I mean, we had so much respect and admiration for Governor Childs and Rhea. We said we just can't let this, you know, somebody else have this. We got to have it. So
Yeah.
my wife brought it home, and we hung it up, and it's been hanging in our living rooms. I say, see, this is the fourth house since then that we've lived in since then we've had it. I'll stop there and see if you have any questions.
Yeah, that's such an awesome story, just finding it by chance. So what do you do with the prints of the artwork of the map?
Right. Okay. So I was involved in a number of charities here in Lakeland, and one of the ones I was involved with was the PACE Center for Girls. It's a program for at-risk girls. I guess high school and junior high, or I guess middle school and high school. And I was on the board, and we were trying to find a way. The board was tasked with trying to find a way to raise some money. And so I just got. I was at that point. I had gotten into photography. You can probably see some photographs behind me here on Zoom. I had gotten into photography, and I knew a little bit about making giclée reproductions just because of my photography work. And the board was. I mean, we were really back then. We were really needed to raise some money for the Pay Center of Girls. They were new to Lakeland, and they really needed some help. And everything that we had tried had really not produced much results. So I just popped into my head one day. Well, why don't we make giclée reproductions? I can take a photograph of the map, and we can print it out on canvas, and we can sell these. I think a lot of people would be interested in having this, particularly if Mrs. Childs, if Rhea would sign them. And so that's what we did. I talked to the executive director of the Pace Center for Girls and the board, and everybody thought it was a great idea. So that's what we did. So we just printed the giclée reproductions, and I did all the printing back then. I did all of the stretching. You have to stretch the canvas around the stretcher bars, and then you have to frame it. But before that, after I printed them off, like every other weekend, every third weekend, I was driving down to Holmes Beach in Florida, where Rhea lived. Back up. Because I own the original, that doesn't give me the legal right to reproduce and sell the art. So I had to contact Mrs. Childs and ask for permission. I can't remember how I got her connection. I may have contacted her son Ed Childs, who I went to school with and knew, growing up. But somehow or other, I got her contact information and contacted her and told her what we would like to do, and she was all in. She said that's what she's used her art for in the past. I mean, a lot of times it's what she used her art for, and she knew about the Pace Center for Girls. In fact, she and Governor Childs had done the dedication at one of their facilities in Jacksonville. Their home office is in Jacksonville, and so she was all for it. We advertised around Lakeland and Polk County as best we could. To people, and we set up a way for people to submit orders. And then, like I said, we every couple of weekends I drove down from Lakeland to Holmes Beach and went to her house, Mrs. Childs' house, and she would sign them, and I would bring them back. And we ended up selling. Well, I don't remember how many we sold. Maybe 100 is what's popping in my head. I have to check my notes. But somewhere on that order of magnitude, close to 100, maybe a little bit more. And we raised about $35,000 for Pace Center for Girls, which at that time was the most anybody had ever raised by a large, any board had ever raised, whatnot. But the board members of the Pay Center for Girls in Lakeland, where we were all involved in it. They were helping us advertise. So it was a team project, and it was really exciting, and we had a good time doing it. So that lasted a year or two, and then we felt like we sold all that we could, and that that project came to an end. And then 3 or 4 years ago, I don't remember the exact date, but the Florida House, has a group. I don't know what they call the Board of Governors, or it's a group that helps in Lakeland. I mean, a group in Florida that helps support the Florida House. They contacted me 3 or 4 years ago and asked if, because they were aware of what we had done for the Pace Center for Girls. In fact, the Florida House purchased one of the recut G-Clay reproductions to support the project, the Pace Center for Girls project. And y'all got it hanging. It was in the stairwell the last time I remember. Is it still there?
It's in the foyer, but yes, it is still hanging.
Yeah. So the staff at the Florida House was aware of the project with the Pace Center for Girls, because they had purchased one. One of the prints and whatnot. So about 3 or 4 years ago, this group in Florida, that's Lake Group, that's responsible for helping to support the Florida House, contacted me and asked if we could do the same thing. So we did. I didn't print and stretch all of these that we did. I stretched so many before with the Pace Center of Girls. I had to get a cortisone shot in my thumb because I've injured my thumb. I didn't want to do that many again. I got older, so we hired a printer and a frame company to do that work. So that was about 3 or 4 years ago, and I wasn't involved in collecting the money or actually delivering the prints. So I'm not sure of the numbers, how many we sold and how much money we raised for Florida House. But I could contact somebody and find out if that was important. But those are the 2 projects that we've done with Mrs. Child's map painting so far.
Yeah, that's awesome, the amount of work that you've done to help these different organizations. Raghav, do you have any other questions?
I'm good, I think.
Okay. Well, Mr. Boring, thank you so much for joining us today and speaking to us about the map and kind of the impact that it's had on the state of Florida.
Yeah, thank you. That was really insightful.